and maybe this is where my media training and press freedom principles come into play, but if you're out in a public place, you have no expectation of privacy. And I see where something like this might push it to its limit, but your mama always used to say, don't do anything you wouldn't want to be seen on the front page of the newspaper. And I think the modern day equivalent of that is,
that's so old.
Don't do anything at Lumen Field that you wouldn't want to see on the Jumbotron.
There you go.
Hi, and welcome to GeekWire. I'm GeekWire co-founder Todd Bishop.
And I'm GeekWire co-founder John Cook.
We are coming to you from Seattle, where we get to report each day on what's happening around us in business, technology, and innovation. What happens here matters everywhere. And every week on this show, we talk about some of the most interesting and important stories in the news. John, I was scooped this week by President Trump.
I know what you're referencing.
So that's coming up later. How's that for a teaser? I'll tell you all about that. But before we get into that, and I've got a bunch of different stories I want to talk about with you, and I know you've got some things you want to talk about as well. We have some very attentive listeners.
Oh, tell me more.
And in fact, there was a listener who heard my demonstration of my purchase last week with Alexa, and she caught something that nobody else caught. And in fact, it was a mistake. And I've been corresponding with Amazon about it. And in fact, they've acknowledged that it was a mistake in the Alexa ordering process that they've now gone to the extent of resolving.
No way.
So here is my...
So this was, just to refresh, you were ordering, as I understand it, from the shower, some Oragel?
No.
Oral-B?
Oral-B.
Oral-B.
Oragel.
What the heck was
From
it?
the shower.
Yeah.
I don't like where this is
No,
headed.
Oral-G.
Oral-B.
Oral-B.
Flossers.
Flossers. Okay, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
So here, John, is what I would like to do. I compressed the audio. In other words, I took out all the gaps. And I want to play this for you and for everybody out there. Are you ready for
I'm
this?
ready. Good quiz.
Okay. Listen closely.
Can you just add the Oral-B flossers that I've purchased in the past and go ahead and buy those?
Looking for Oral-B flossers. Perfect. I found the Oral-B Glide Complete Floss Picks from your order history. They're $2.99, marked down from $4.94, and available for same-day delivery. Ready to buy these?
That's a pretty good deal. Can you go ahead and add 3 of those to my shopping cart and buy them?
Adding those now.
Okay. Now
I got it.
Okay. Now, but
I got
wait.
it.
Now,
Yes.
now you remember I asked, because there was the Tide Pods, and actually there's something else I need to tell you about that. There was the Tide Pods that were added, but I didn't know that they were added. So it was a big order, like $40 or something, 30, I forget what it was exactly.
Yeah.
So I asked for an itemization. So here's what the itemization was.
Your order has 3 Oral-B floss picks for $3.89 each, and 1 Tide Laundry detergent soap for $26.51. The total is $41.22 with delivery today between 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. to Seattle. Ready to confirm?
Yes.
Okay.
I know exactly what it was.
What was it?
Well, we should let our audience guess.
Well, give them a moment.
Give them
Yes.
a moment to guess here. It has nothing to do with the price.
You're wrong.
Oh, it does have something to do with the price.
Yes, it has everything to do with the price.
Oh, wait a minute. Well, I thought, okay, I'm going to disclose what I think it was. You asked for the flossers, and it responded with the picks.
Same.
They're the same thing? That's not what it
now
is?
That would be super petty. No, that's not what it is at all.
Well, I would think a pick is different than a flosser.
No.
I missed it. I missed it.
I sent this to Amazon with the subject line of Alexa and the case of the mystery floss pricing. So what it was she initially quoted, if you listen back, listen to the price she quoted.
Oh, okay.
They're $2.99, marked down from $4.94.
Okay, now listen to what she said when I asked for the itemization.
Your order has 3 Oral-B floss picks for $3.89 each.
90 cents more.
Wow.
So I'm thinking like, do I need to refer this to the Attorney General,
Yes,
the Consumer
yes,
Protection
100%.
Division? What happened was, and I talked to Amazon about this, effectively, Alexa was, for the initial quote, applying a coupon, a 90-cent coupon, but she wasn't telling me that. And then for the other two items, that coupon didn't apply. So if you actually look at my itemized bill, I did get 90 cents off the first Oral-B flosser. However, you wouldn't have known that going through that process. And to me, I know this sounds petty, but I mean, you want to know that the prices you're being quoted are correct. Yes, it was less than a couple dollars here in this case, ultimately net, but there has been class action litigation over less than this when you compound it over the millions of people.
You just saved Amazon billions
Potentially.
of dollars.
Potentially.
Billions of dollars.
Here's the response from Amazon PR. Thanks for
before you get to the response, I want to make sure I understand what it is. They gave you a discount on one of them, but not all three.
They gave me a coupon off on one of them.
And the coupon didn't apply to the other two.
Exactly.
Okay.
There was no discussion of a coupon.
You just thought you were getting individual pricing on each of those three.
I thought she was saying, hey, these things are now $2.99. They're usually more than $4. And so you heard me say,
she said.
Yes. And so you heard me go, damn, that's a good deal. It was a good deal. And so I think the other reason this matters is it's an example of interacting via voice, not having the full benefit of text in front of your eyes. And I think had I made this purchase on a computer, I would have understood more fully what I was actually doing if I cared to know that I was getting a coupon.
Because there are decades of user interface experiences with text-based purchases.
Yes, so this is somewhat new. We're sort of exploring the frontier here. So Amazon was on it, to their credit. And by the way, I know they listen to the show because, we talk a lot about Alexa, and we've had Alexa execs on. And so they were willing to look into it, and they did. So this was a spokesperson.
Full statement.
First off, they said, thanks for flagging. This was an issue that the team has resolved. Alexa should provide the regular price of an item without coupon discounts applied, and then will auto-apply eligible coupons at checkout so customers still receive all the savings. Since coupons have terms and conditions like usage caps and maximum savings on multiple quantities, this is intended to simplify the experience for customers. So if you're following here, this has been changed now.
The GeekWire podcast at work right here.
Okay, one last addendum here. The Tide Pods arrived.
Oh,
do you remember when I told you I was kind of surprised to see those in the shopping cart?
Yes.
My wife said, why in the heck did you order Tide Pods? We usually get the all free and clear in the plastic bags. And she doesn't like to get the Tide Pods because they come in a plastic container that's not really recyclable. Nobody in my household will fess up to putting the Tide Pods in the shopping cart. And in fact, our working theory is that nobody did. Now, can I prove this in the same way that I can prove that Alexa misquoted the price? No. So I'm going to let it go. However, I'm going to be paying very close attention to the shopping cart when I do voice orders in the future.
And if any listeners come across this as an experience as they're testing out, which I think you're in a pretty small percentage of people that are actually using Alexa to make purchases from their shower.
No, let's be clear, it's not for my shower. Okay, so I'm getting ready in the morning. I've just come from the bathroom. I'm getting dressed. And I remember, for example, I'm out of deodorant or I'm out of flossers in this case. I mean, it's very actionable. And the thing I like about voice is you can just sit there and do it without having to write it on a list or have to remember it later. And so I like that. And I like that in the kitchen as well. So there are some benefits, and hopefully this has been instructive and not too much of a rabbit hole that we've gone down here to lose people. I hope this will be the last time we revisit my Alexa order.
This is great.
Okay.
I love this.
Let's take a break. When we come back, I do want to talk about Microsoft, its data center commitment that it made this week, and what happened when they mentioned it to President Trump and the administration. All right, that's coming up next. You're listening to GeekWire, and we will be right back. Welcome back. It's Todd Bishop with John Cook. All right, we've got the Alexa stuff out of the way. Let's get into the meat of the week. I would say one of the biggest news stories in the tech world and frankly in the business world writ large this week was Microsoft's announcement that it's going to make a series of concessions to local communities in an effort to win their support effectively for these massive AI data centers that Microsoft and others are trying to put in small towns and rural communities and suburbs around the country. I talked to Brad Smith, Microsoft's president, about this earlier this week. And just in a nutshell, Microsoft is taking what it's calling a community-first approach. And you've seen a real backlash to the water needs, the power requirements of these massive data centers. You've even seen some cases where it's starting to impact the aquifers or the electricity bills of people in some of these small towns. And Microsoft's new pledge is that it's going to pay the full power costs for these facilities, not just the actual electricity that they use, but the cost of the upgrades to the grids that might create capital expenses that would trickle down to ratepayers eventually. It's going to replenish more water than it uses, and it announced a series of training programs, some in conjunction with labor unions, and it plans to invest in AI education and community programs. And it was kind of a break from many in the rest of the industry. Microsoft is pretty good at this.
I am wondering how far we've come from the days of Amazon HQ2.
Yes, John, this is exactly where I wanted
Is
to
that
take
what you?
this
Is that what you were
conversation.
thinking? Because how long
Yes.
ago was that? That was 7 years ago, 7, 8 years ago.
2019.
And it was this bake-off where cities and communities had the benefit of welcoming a company like Amazon into its confines or into its city limits. And now the tide has turned.
100%. This is my first thing. My note on this was, can the data center be a prize again? In other words, it is something that is weighing these communities down. And Microsoft is trying to turn it around. And one of the main ways they're doing is they're saying they're going to reject local property tax breaks. And now we have to be super clear. Microsoft has not been the pinnacle of altruism on this issue up until this point. They had tax breaks that they got in Ohio and Iowa. Up until just a little bit ago, in one community, they were keeping secret their identity. And these are all things that Microsoft says they're going to change. But to your point, John, back in the day, having a tech company come into your community and invest, build, that was seen as a prize. And of course, that was in part because of the clear path to jobs. With a data center, it's very different. It's a lot of construction jobs up front, and then it's a much smaller amount of jobs after that. And so you've got a real difference in terms of the equation that happens when a company like Microsoft comes and says that they're going to be in your community. It can be repulsive to communities, not a reward.
I wonder how much of this is tied back to what happened in October. And I know you spoke to Brad Smith, Microsoft's president. I believe Brad Smith is from Wisconsin or
Yes.
went to the University
Yes.
of Wisconsin. They had a big blow up back in October. There was a data center proposed in Caledonia, which I think is outside of Milwaukee. And they pulled the plug on the plans here because there was such a negative reaction to Microsoft setting this data center up. So I wonder if they came out of that in Brad Smith's stomping grounds and said, hey, we have to have a better way of interacting with communities. If I can't even go into my home state and build a data center for Microsoft.
Yet again, you hit it on the nose. Brad Smith, in my interview with him, said specifically that he witnessed this firsthand in his home state of Wisconsin. Back in 2024, when they first proposed their data center expansion there, residents were talking about jobs. But by last October, when he went back to announce the latest stage of it, the big topics were electricity prices and water uses, and it was not about the benefit. It was about the way that these facilities were going to be saddling the communities with negative outcomes. So it's a huge difference.
I'm curious if you think other companies are going to follow suit on this.
Funny you should say that. Are you just like setting
I'm
me
not.
up
I
this
did not
week?
look at your notes. I do.
Okay, it's funny you should say that. Okay, so here is one of the questions that I asked Brad Smith during our interview. Do you hope to inspire or maybe even compel others in the industry to follow suit indirectly by doing this? You know, similar things have happened in the past with things like your original climate and affordable housing pledges. And if you can't get the Amazons and the Googles of the world to be as transparent as you are, won't that put you at a disadvantage in trying to cite data centers?
Well, first of all, I would say two things. First, this is probably the most comprehensive approach that any tech company has taken, but it does build on pieces that are existing best practices. Some are best practices at Microsoft. Some are best practices that we've developed by learning from others. So I would not for a moment want to suggest that we're the only company trying to do the right thing. I think Amazon is a company that has done a lot of really good and well-executed work in this space. I think that the industry is going to need to set a higher bar for itself. I think the industry is already moving in this direction. I think we're part of that. And hopefully we'll help nudge all of us to keep setting a higher bar. At the end of the day, I think this is both the right thing to do and the smart thing to do.
So that response surprised me on a couple of fronts. The first one was kind of the greeting card that he put out there to Amazon. I was really surprised by that.
That doesn't surprise me as much.
Okay.
I do feel as if they are in this together. And I feel as if large tech companies are under attack from a lot of different fronts right now. And I think they're realizing we need to work together to move the ball forward so they don't get decimated by politics. And so that doesn't surprise me too much. I think there's a changing attitude here as it relates to competition. I bet we see more of this in other things.
It's funny you should say that, because another story that came up this week was about Microsoft's work in housing in the Seattle area, trying to create more affordable housing. This is something that Amazon has been doing on its own as well. And what you're seeing and what I'm hearing behind the scenes is that even though Microsoft and Amazon are keeping separate funds in terms of their affordable housing and doing different things, they're approaching this problem in different ways, they're very aligned on the policy. And you're seeing them take a united front on housing issues when they go to the legislature.
Well, big tech is under attack. As I said, they're under attack from the left. They're under attack from the right. They're under attack from the bottom up, when you think about this. And so I do feel as if companies are starting to change their tune and how they think about approaching these types of issues.
So to your original point about the flip and the comparison between the courting of Amazon's HQ2 across the country and across the continent and the contrast with what's happening now, I think data centers are different. And I think to some extent, those two things are apples and oranges.
But would Amazon go through a Amazon HQ2 style process in 2026? They would not do that the same way.
That's
I don't think they would be able to do it now.
That's a good point.
The tide has really turned against tech, and they're the enemy. They're seen as the enemy in many ways, and I think there's a effort to combat that perception.
In that regard, Microsoft and Brad Smith hold up Quincy, Washington, as an example. And he cited this in the interview with me.
And we should say where Quincy, Washington is in Washington State. It's located kind of smack dab in the middle on the Columbia River. Many people know the Gorge Amphitheater, which is perhaps the greatest concert venue setting in the world, which is nearby. And it's agricultural land for the most part. A lot of apple orchards and apple packaging facilities there, which have, for the most part, been transformed into data centers.
That's right. It is data center country in Washington State. And
in part because of the cheap hydroelectric power they're getting off the Columbia River.
Exactly. Brad Smith holds up Quincy as an example of what can happen, getting back to the HQ2 thing, because of property taxes specifically. That is one of Microsoft's commitments. They're not going to seek property tax breaks under this new initiative that they announced. He talks about Quincy High School and holds it up as essentially the pinnacle of modern education, in the middle of the state, and says it's, in his view, even better than any of the public schools, high schools in Microsoft's backyard in Bellevue or Redmond, which is saying a lot. I mean, and so that is what he's saying, is that his hope is that the AI boom can ultimately have that positive benefit throughout the country. And I think there's a lot of skepticism still warranted here. And I think Microsoft still has to prove that it can do this. It's a huge initiative. And I think they need to be watched and monitored. And certainly this is only a promise at this point.
And it's not just schools, it's pools. Have you seen the plans for the new aquatic center?
No.
In Quincy?
No.
Oh, I think they broke ground this past year. It is fabulous. And you can only imagine, I haven't done a deep dive into this, pun intended, but I can only imagine that they only can fund a facility such as this because of tax revenue coming off probably those data centers.
All right. I feel like I have to deliver the payoff on the President Trump tease.
Oh, right. That's right. I wanted to come back to that. You got scooped by Donald Trump.
45 and 47. Scoop me.
Yeah. How'd it happen?
So Microsoft briefed the administration on what they were going to do. And the embargo for everybody else, all of us commoners in the press, was 5:30 a.m. Pacific, 8:30 a.m. Eastern on Tuesday morning. And about 3 o'clock Tuesday afternoon Pacific time, the president posts one of his truths on Truth Social. And he says in part that, his administration has been working with tech companies to secure their commitment to the American people. He called Microsoft first up and said it would make major changes to ensure that Americans don't pick up the tab for their power consumption. So he broke the news that night, and it was kind of fun. I just ended up rolling with it and playing off it a little bit in the lead and just
And you
having
didn't
fun.
wait on the story? Or
I did.
you
No,
wait
I
for the
did.
embargo?
I did. It was late
Yeah.
that night, and
Yeah.
I'd agreed to the embargo. He didn't really reveal the entire thing, and I don't know. I waited. I waited. Everybody else waited too, who'd been briefed
Really?
as well.
Yeah.
They
So he
did.
broke the embargo.
He broke the embargo, and then those reporters who had not been briefed reported on it, quoting him. As the embargoes are a big racket. We don't need to get into all that stuff. It's a big mess. Anyway, it was kind of funny to finally get scooped by POTUS.
That's right. Good job.
Hey,
well,
thanks.
interesting story.
Yes.
Really interesting story.
With big implications. And to your point, I think the next question is, do we see the Amazons, the Googles, the Oracles, the OpenAIs, the Anthropics of the world follow suit? So we shall see. All right. Hey, I've got a good story for you coming up. I want to talk about it.
And I've got a good story for you. I hope it's not the same one.
I'm sure it's different. Okay. We'll be right back. Welcome back. It's Todd Bishop with John Cook. All right, John, I'm going to jump in and tell you about a story that I saw this week that I'm not sure if you've seen, that I think you might be interested in. All right, you ready?
I'm ready.
The headline, and it's by Tom Warren in The Verge. I got to say, shout out to Tom Warren. Just his Microsoft beat coverage is top notch. I will tell you that. And huge respect for Tom at The Verge. Been doing it for many years and really appreciate his reporting. The headline is, UK police blame Microsoft Copilot for intelligence mistake. And the lead is, the chief constable of one of Britain's largest police forces has admitted that Microsoft's Copilot AI assistant made a mistake in a football, parentheses, soccer, intelligence report. The report, which led to Israeli football fans being banned from a match last year, included a non-existent match between a London-based team and an Israeli team. This fictitious match that did not actually happen, it was treated as evidence of prior disorder, prior conflict between the club's supporters. And so that was part of the reason that they ended up banning Israeli fans from this subsequent match. So basically they were relying on Copilot to come up with a report to justify their action. And one of the data points, the past matches that they used in the report, was fictitious, did not happen.
Wow. Okay. That's a pretty big miss.
It is.
I would think you would be able to identify that a match actually occurred
Yes,
at
it's-
some point. So
yes.
they just created a fictitious match that did not happen, that then led to a report that created barriers for people to come to a future match.
Yes, basically banned these fans from coming to the future match based on this fictitious report.
Okay.
So there you go. So
Yeah. All
AI
right, well-
hallucination.
Well, I'm a massive soccer fan, and I'm a massive fantasy English Premier League soccer fan. And
Yes.
one thing I need to look into is Microsoft Copilot has a new deal with English Premier League
Oh, really?
and the fantasy that you can ask questions and get tips and advice. Now, I used it a little bit earlier in the season and found it pretty useless.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I'm relying on my own my own knowledge of the game, if you will, to figure out my fantasy team.
Okay.
So, yes.
All right. So that's my story, surprise story for you.
My story is also in the football realm.
AKA soccer.
No, American football.
Okay.
So we've got a pretty big game this weekend in Seattle.
Yes.
We've got the Seattle Seahawks taking on this other little minor tech town, San Francisco 49ers.
Yes, it's the Battle of the Tech Hubs.
It's the Battle of the Tech Hubs. And what's interesting to me, we've had Curt on our team, has been reporting on this. He's a massive football fan, but I think more of a Bills fan than a Seahawks fan. We'll let that slip. But what was interesting to me...
Do you want to say that publicly?
I don't know. Yes, I think he'll admit that. I think he still flies a Bills flag on game days. But he had a couple stories this week. One is the seismograph.
Yes.
That's going to be placed at Lumen Field on Saturday night to track whether there's going to be another Beastquake.
Oh, geez.
Now you remember the Beastquake.
Yes.
You don't like the Beastquake?
It's okay.
It's one of the greatest moments in NFL history.
It's one of the greatest runs in NFL history. The fact that the fans created something replicating an earthquake, all right, I guess. I don't know.
You don't buy it. There was also the Taylor Swift quake at Lumen Field too.
Yes.
So now it's become this whole thing. So anyway, fun little story. But the thing that caught my attention was another story that Curt wrote, and I want to get your opinion on this. There is a technology created by a company out of Chicago called Memento. They partner with concert venues, sporting teams, and they've been working with the Seahawks since 2023. Essentially, they create and capture images of every fan in the stadium.
Yes, I saw this story.
At moments in time when momentous things happen. For example, if Marshawn Lynch ran an amazing play down the middle of the field and stiff-armed somebody and knocked him over and ended up in the end zone, and captures all these amazing moments that are happening at that time. Now, Curt, who we referenced earlier, he has some issues on the privacy component of this, and I'm curious how you feel about this, because it does get into, what was it, Coldplay Gate?
Yes.
Or the Kiss Cam?
Yes.
Where there was an illicit affair captured people kissing at the moment who obviously shouldn't have been kissing.
They were not kissing. They were not
They
kissing.
were just embracing. They're embracing.
Yes. Do we have to go over this whole thing?
I paid a little bit of attention to it. Now, I have my own story with that I should bring up.
No, that's not a good way to set it up. Okay, before we get to my take on this, let's
get your take on.
You're in a public place.
Yes.
That's my take. If someone's coming into your house and setting up some kind of camera, obviously that's a problem. But I think, and maybe this is where my media training and press freedom principles come into play, but if you're out in a public place, you have no expectation of privacy. And I see where something like this might push it to its limit, but on a legal basis, on a personal basis, your mama always used to say, don't do anything you wouldn't want to be seen on the front page of the newspaper. And I think the modern day equivalent of that is
that's so old.
Don't do anything at Lumen Field that you wouldn't want to see on the Jumbotron.
There you go. I'm in the same boat. I don't have a problem with it. I think this is actually pretty cool to capture these moments, but beware if you've done a little.
What's your story?
My story was, this technology's been around for a little bit. Our web developer and photographer at GeekWire, Kevin Lasota, and I went to a U2 concert many years ago. And they essentially had a version of this technology where they were capturing folks in the audience. And it was a fantastic concert. I had a great time. And the moment it captured me was talking to the rather attractive woman who was very pleasant and a very nice person.
Just having a conversation.
No, enjoying the moment with her. Nothing as controversial as the embrace going on at the Coldplay concert. But I think I was there maybe about 10 years before that incident happened. And so beware at Lumen Field what you're doing and who you're associating with during those big plays that happen.
And still married, I should say. I shouldn't say married at the time.
Yes, that's right. Because she never found out about this. So anyway, big weekend for football. Are you going to watch the games? Are you into this?
Absolutely, yes.
How are you
Absolutely.
feeling? Seahawks or 49ers?
You know, I'm just looking for a good game. I got to say, last weekend's games were so good.
Very good. Very good.
You know, on my Alexa Echo Show 15 in my office, I was up there. You know, I was watching a little bit downstairs with the family, but I was up there watching, and it's just so nice to be able to catch up on email and have the TV going with the sound off and the closed captioning going. That's sort of my thing. So anyway,
Mine's to go to a bar and watch it. Yeah.
Probably a much more healthy and normal way to do it.
Well, I think Seahawks are looking good with a very strong defense. 49ers have a lot of injuries. I'm predicting a Seahawks win.
Wow. Okay. I think you're right. It's funny, Brad Smith, being the Packers fan, the first thing I said to him was, hey, I'm sorry. And I actually feel bad that they lost, because if they had won against the Bears,
Yes.
and they were way ahead of the Bears, and if they had won, they would have been the Seahawks opponent this weekend. And I actually felt like Green Bay is a much weaker opponent than the 49ers.
In many ways. I'm just glad we didn't get the Rams. I think the Rams are tough, and I wouldn't want to face them again. So big football weekend.
It's going to be good.
Excited.
Hey, one last little note here. Congratulations to Glenn Kelman, the Redfin CEO, retiring from Rocket Companies, which acquired Redfin, the technology.
Multiple time guest on the GeekWire podcast. Always fun.
And what would you say about Glenn? I think he's
very quotable.
One of perhaps up there with John Ledger, the former T-Mobile CEO,
but a little more thoughtful, not as controversial.
And
Glenn is an amazing writer. Whenever he would pen a blog post or something, it was always so interesting and informative. And I know I joked with him. I said, this week when we were chatting with him, I just said, you wanted to be a newspaper reporter.
Yes.
You could just tell.
Yeah, we had a good email thread going with Glenn this week. I think it's okay to say it was just a good person. And of course, I have to say, I know working for people is very different than covering them and interacting with them in the community. So, I just have to say our experience with Glenn has always been, well, actually, that's not true. I can remember many arguments I got into.
A lot of arguments. And, but we appreciate people that bring kind of their true self to their job and are quotable and interesting and just don't play by the normal CEO playbook that has gotten media training by 40 different PR people. Those are the most boring interviews.
Absolutely.
The most interesting are people that think thoughtfully about their job and take a little bit of a different approach. And that's one thing I always appreciated about Glenn.
Definitely. And he's still around, and it seems to be there's a teaser that he might be planning something new, or at least thinking about eventually doing something new.
After 20 years, I hope he takes a little bit of a break.
Absolutely. But it would be outside of real estate, if I understand correctly. And so it would be fascinating to see what he does. I think he should go into media. He would be great at it. All right. So hats off to Glenn Kelman. Hey, great conversation. Thanks for doing it, John.
Thanks, Todd.
Curt Milton edited this episode. Until next time, I'm Todd Bishop.
And I'm John Cook.
We'll be back soon with a new episode of the GeekWire podcast.